What's up, everyone? So, we left off at the end of Act 1. Juror 8 had made his proposition to have the other 11 jurors vote, a secret vote. And if they voted 11 votes guilty, then he would vote along with them. But if one juror voted not guilty, then they would all talk about it further. And so the vote happened at the end of Act 1. And one juror does vote not guilty. Act 2, this is page 27. At rise of curtain, it is only a second or two later. So even though it's Act 2, it's continuous time. Where Act 1 left off, Act 2 picks up right at the second after the vote happens. The jurors are in the same positions as they were at the end of Act 1. 3. After a brief pause. All right, who did it? What idiot changed his vote? Is that the way to talk about a man's life? Sits at his place again. Whose life are you talking about? The life of the dead man, or the life of a murderer? I want to know who. So do I. Excuse me, this was a secret ballot. No one looked while we did it, but now I want to know. They want to know who voted not guilty. A secret ballot. We agreed on that point, no? If the gentleman wants it to remain a secret, standing up angrily. What do you mean? There are no secrets in here. I know who it was. He turns to 5. What's the matter with you? You come in here and you vote guilty, and then this? He nods toward 8. And then this slick preacher starts to tear your heart out with stories about a poor little kid who just couldn't help becoming a murderer. So you change your vote? If that isn't the most sickening. 5 edges away in his chair. The foreman. Now hold it. 7 sits again slowly. To 3. I agree with you that the man is guilty, but let's be fair. Hold it. Be fair? That's just what I'm saying. We're trying to put a guilty man into the chair where he belongs. And all of a sudden, we're paying attention to fairy tales? Now, just a minute. Bending toward 5, wagging his finger at him. Now you listen to me. Foreman, rapping on the table. Let's try to keep this organized, gentlemen. It isn't organized, but let's try to be civilized. Please, I would like to say something here. I have always thought that a man was entitled to have unpopular opinions in this country. This is the reason I came here. I wanted to have the right to disagree. Do you disagree with us? Usually I would. In this one case, I agree with you. But the point I wish to make is that in my own country, I am ashamed to say, oh, now, what do we have to listen to? The whole history of your country? 3 sits again in disgust. It's always wise to bear in mind what has happened in other countries when people aren't allowed to disagree. But we are, so let's stick to the subject. Yeah, let's stick to the subject. To 5. I want to ask you, what made you change your vote? So 7 thinks it's 5, 3 thinks it's 5. They're asking him, I want you to ask what made you change your vote? I want to know too. You haven't told us yet. Why do you think I changed my vote? Because I do. Now get on with it. 9 quietly. There's nothing for him to tell you. He didn't change his vote. I did. All look at 9. So everybody turns and looks at 9. To 3. I was going to tell you, but you were so sure of yourself. Sorry. To 9. Okay, now maybe you'd like to know why. Not giving him a chance. Let me tell you why that kid's a... The man wants to talk. 3 subsides. He backs down. 9. To the foreman. Thank you. Points at 8. This gentleman chose not to stand alone against us. That's his right. It takes a great deal of courage to stand alone, even if you believe in something very strongly. He left the verdict up to us. He gambled for support, and I gave it to him. I want to hear more. The vote is 10-2. Jurors 2 and 4 get up at about the same instant and walk to the water cooler as 10 speaks. That's fine. If the speech is over, let's go on. Foreman gets up, goes to the door left, pulls tagged knife from wall, and then knocks on the door. The door is opened by the guard. The foreman hands the guard the tagged switch knife. So the piece of evidence, right? It's tagged as evidence. The guard goes out, and the foreman takes the other switch knife, closes it, and puts it in the middle of the table. He sits again. The other jurors talk on in pantomime as 2 and 4 stand by the water cooler. So pantomime means that just everybody's pretending to talk, and then it's going to go over to, the lines are going to be said by 2 and 4. So as 2 and 4 are talking, everybody else is in pantomime, meaning they're just kind of pretending they're talking. 4. He's filling his cup. If there was anything in the kid's favor, I'd vote not guilty. I don't see what it is. Handing cup to 2, then drawing drink for himself. Neither do I. They're clutching at straws. As guilty as they get, that's the kid, I suppose. It's the one juror that's holding out, but he'll come around. He's got to, and fundamentally, he's a very reasonable man. They're talking about 8. I guess so. They haven't come up with one real fact yet to back up a not guilty verdict. It's hard, you know? Yes, it is. And what does guilty beyond a reasonable doubt really mean? What's a reasonable doubt? Exactly. When a life is at stake, what is a reasonable doubt? You've got to have law and order. You've got to draw the line somewhere. If you don't, everyone would start knifing people. Not much doubt here. 2 men think so. I wonder why. I really wonder why. He's talking about 8 and 9. You do hear stories about innocent men who have gone to jail or death sometimes. Then years later, things turn up. And then on the other hand, some killers get turned loose and they go and do it again. They squeeze out on some technicality and kill again. Throws his cup into the wastebasket, walks back and sits. We then hear 3 say to 5, "Look, buddy, now that we've kind of cooled off, why, I was a little excited a minute ago, and, well, you know how it is. I didn't mean to get nasty. Nothing personal." 2 trails back to his place and sits again. After staring at 3 for a moment, 5 says, "Okay." 7 to 8. "Look, supposing you answer me this. If the kid didn't kill him, who did? As far as I know, we're supposed to decide whether or not the boy on trial is guilty. We're not concerned with anyone else's motives here, I suppose. But who else had a motive? The kid's father was along in years, maybe an old grudge. Remember, it is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This is an important thing to remember." To 10. "Everyone's a lawyer." To 9. "Supposing you explain to us what your reasonable doubts are." So he wants to know why 9 changed. "This is not easy. So far, it's only a feeling I have." "A feeling? Perhaps you don't understand." Abruptly. "No, I don't." "A feeling? What are we going to do? Spend the night talking about your feelings? What about the facts?" "You said a mouthful." To 9. "Look, the old man heard the kid yell, 'I'm going to kill you.' A second later, he heard the father's body falling, and he saw the boy running out of the house 15 seconds after that. Where's the reasonable doubt in that?" "That's right. And let's not forget the woman across the street. She looked into the open window and saw the boy stab his father. She saw it." Now, if that's not enough for you, quietly firm, it's not enough for me. What is enough for you? I'd like to know. How do you like him? It's like talking into a dead phone. The woman saw the killing through the windows of a moving elevated train. The train had 5 cars, and she saw it through the windows of the last 2 cars of the train. She remembers the most insignificant details. Well, What have you got to say about that? I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me. Well, supposing you think about it. To 12. Let me your pencil. 12 hands him a pencil. Let's play some tic-tac-toe. Draws an X on a piece of paper, then hands pencil and paper to 12. We might as well pass the time. This isn't a game. He rises and snatches the paper away. 3 jumps up. Now wait a minute. This is a man's life. Angrily. Who do you think you are? Rising. All right, let's take it easy. 8 sits again. I've got a good mind to walk around this table and belt him one. Now, please, please. I don't want any fights in here. Did you see him? The nerve. The absolute nerve. All right, forget it. It don't mean anything. How about sitting down? This isn't a game. What does he think he is? Who does he think he is? 6 and 10 urge 3 back into his seat. 7 sits again, and all are seated once more. 4. When quiet is restored. Weren't we talking about elevated trains? Yes, we were. So, all right. How long does it take an elevated train going at top speed to pass a given point? What has that got to do with anything? How long would it take? Guess. I wouldn't have the slightest idea. Neither would I. I don't think they mentioned it. To 5. What do you think? About 10 or 12 seconds, maybe. I'd say that was a fair guess. He looks about. Anyone else? I would think about 10 seconds, perhaps. Reflectively. About 10 seconds, yes. All right, we're agreed. 10 seconds. To 8. What are you getting at? This. An L train passes a given point in 10 seconds. That given point is the window of the room in which the killing took place. You can almost reach out of the window of that room and touch the L train, right? That's right. I tried it. So, all right. Now let me ask you this. Did anyone here ever live right next to the L tracks? I've lived close to them. They make a lot of noise, don't they? 5 nods, so he agrees. I've lived right by the L tracks. When your window is open and the train goes by, the noise is almost unbearable. So the train goes by. He's talking about the train going by. You can't hear yourself think. Impatiently. Okay, you can't hear yourself think. Get to the point. The old man who lived downstairs heard the boy say, interrupting. He didn't say it, he screamed it. The old man heard the boy scream, I'm going to kill you. And 1 second later, he heard a body fall. Slight pause. 1 second. That's the testimony, right? Right. The woman across the street looked through the window of the last 2 cars on the L and saw the body fall, right? Right. So, slowly, the last 2 cars, slight pause, then repeats. The last 2 cars. What are you giving us here? An L train takes 10 seconds to pass a given point, or 2 seconds per car. That L had been going by the old man's window for at least 6 seconds, and maybe more, before the body fell, according to the woman. The old man would have had to hear the boy say, I'm going to kill you, while the front of the L was roaring past his nose. It's not possible that he could have heard it. What do you mean? Sure, he could have heard it. With an L train going by? He said the boy yelled it out. An L train makes a lot of noise. It's enough for me. It's enough for me too. I don't think he could have heard it. Maybe the old man didn't hear it. I mean, with the L train noise, what are you people talking about? Are you calling the old man a liar? Shaking his head. Something doesn't fit. Well, It stands to reason. You're crazy. Why would he lie? What's he got to gain? Attention, maybe. You keep coming up with these bright sayings. Why don't you send one to the newspaper? They pay $2. Hard to 3. So he's saying this sternly. What does that have to do with a man's life? Then to 9. Why might the old man have lied? You have a right to be heard. After moments' hesitation, it's just that I looked at him for a very long time. He's talking about looking at the old man who gave the testimony of hearing the screams. The seam of his jacket was split under his arm. Did you notice that? He was a very old man with a torn jacket, and he carried 2 canes. Gets up, moves right, and leans against the wall. I think I know him better than anyone here. This is a quiet, frightened, insignificant man who has been nothing all his life, who has never had recognition, his name in the newspapers. Nobody knows him after 75 years. This is a very sad thing. A man like this needs to be recognized, to be questioned and listened to and quoted just once. This is very important. And you're trying to tell us he lied about a thing like this just so he could be important? No, he wouldn't really lie, but perhaps he'd make himself believe that he heard those words and recognized the boy's face. Well, loud and brassy, that's the most fantastic story I've ever heard. How can you make up a thing like that? Doggedly. I'm not making it up. You must be making it up. People don't lie about things like that. He made himself believe he told the truth. What do you know about it? Low but firm. I speak from experience. He's got experience doing the same thing he's describing the old man is doing. What? I am the same man. I think we all understand now. Thank you. 9 moves slowly back to table and sits. As 9 sits, 3 says, if you want to admit you're a liar, it's all right by me. Now that is too much. He's a liar. He just told us so. He did not say he was a liar. He was explaining. To 9. Didn't you admit that you're a liar? To 3. Please, he was explaining the circumstances so that we could understand why the old man might have lied. There is a difference. A liar is a liar, and that's all there is to it. Please, have some compassion. Gentlemen, please, we have our job and our duty here. I think they've covered it. I hope we have. To 8. All right, is there anything else? 2 holds up a box of cough drops and speaks to Foreman.